So this short tutorial is just looking at spinal extension and spinal hyperextensions. So for some of us, you know, you've got to start really gentle. We've got neck issues, we've got thoracic stiffness, we've got lumbar issues and SI joint problems. So, you know, the whole, from the top to the bottom, there could be all sorts of problems. So where do you start? You start very gently. You do little and often, and the worst thing you can do for your spine is not to move it at all. So to do these exercises is really good for the spine, and it's, you know, the cobra or the swan is usually an exercise that you will do if your back is really in trouble. They recommend that you lie down on the floor and you do, you know, 10 of these exercises, and multiple times through the day, and gradually you bring your spine out of that, you know, that strong conflict that you've gone into. But you have to start really gentle, and you have to start at the beginning. So we're coming over onto lying onto our front. So to begin with, we're going to just have the feet together, the hands just in front of the shoulders, and the nose pointing at the floor. If the feet together makes the back feel uncomfortable, then you can go wider. So for some people, feet together just is already tightening up a tight place. So start with weight in your elbows, weight in your pelvis, and just float your head, chest and shoulders. How high you come is dependent on how strong you are, and just come to the point where you don't feel tension, you don't feel stress. Your nose is pointing down at the mat, and come back down. So that's enough to start with. As you become heavy in the pelvis, heavy in the elbows, you float the head with the nose pointing down. Just feel like the crown of your head is stretching to the wall in front of you, and feel like your ears are stretching away from your collarbone, but you're not changing the posture of your head. And gently down. So again, think long neck, long spine, long legs, and you're floating the head. The weight is in the elbows and the forearms, heavy in the pelvis, crown of the head stretching to the wall in front of you, ears stretching away from the collarbone. So you're already really strongly working your back muscles and becoming stronger in your back. Do that again, just floating, heavy in the pelvis, heavy in the elbows, lengthening the neck without lifting the head out of this down-facing posture. 1, 2, 3, and come back down. So then if you wanted to advance this exercise, you could put your hands down the side of your body, heavy in the pelvis, long neck, long spine, long leg, and just floating the head, chest, and shoulders. So this version is quite a lot harder because you've taken your elbows away from the floor, and they were doing most of the work. And come back down. So the nose is pointing to the mat all the way through. Long neck, long spine, long leg. Active in your bottom. So you tighten your bottom a little bit to stabilize your low back. 1, 2, 3. And come back down. So that's called the darts. So then you could progress this again to hands under your forehead. So now you've added the weight of 2 arms. So heavy in the pelvis, active in your glutes, long neck, long spine, long leg, and see if you could float the head, keeping the nose pointing down, and come back down. You can feel those mid-back muscles working super hard. So only progress it if you feel you can do it without straining in the neck. Heavy in the pelvis, tight bottom, long neck, long spine, long legs. Feel like the crown of the head stretching to the wall in front of you and the toes stretching to the wall behind you. Come back down. So that's really going to build strength. So you could practice those. You could do a few 2 or 3 times a week until you start to get really strong in those erector spinae muscles. So then you start to bring in flexibility. Bring the hands to the back of the front of the shoulders, elbows tucked in, long neck, long spine, long legs, heavy in the pelvis, float the head, chest and shoulders and put the weight into the elbows. And then you're going to Drop your low ribs in the front of your rib cage into the mat, so you're already into thoracic extension. And imagine you've got a spider on the floor in front of you, and the spider is walking out from you, and you're only going to follow that imaginary spider to the place where your neck still feels comfortable. So if it starts to get uncomfortable, come in a little bit from there. So some of us, the spider's on the floor. Some of us can get the spider walking up the wall. Some of us can get the spider walking up to the ceiling. Push the tongue into the roof of the mouth. Take a deep breath. And you'll feel the fascial connection to your deep core through the tongue, through the heart and the lungs, through the organs of your abdomen. And then release the tongue, and the eyes are coming down the wall, coming inwards. So that's a really good exercise to practice. Make sure there's no strain, there's no stress, there's no gripping, there's no jarring as you do that. So start by being heavy in the pelvis. That's your strong center. Long neck, long spine, long legs, and you're just lifting your head, chest, and shoulders. Put the weight into the elbows and the forearms. Drop the low ribs into the mat. Follow the spider out from your body, up the wall, maybe towards the ceiling, maybe tongue into the roof of the mouth. Take a deep breath. And as you exhale, release the tongue, and the spider comes back down. The spider comes in. Until you're looking down. So then you progress that, so that really involves the upper half of your spine. You progress that to hands at the edge of the mat, feet at the edge of the mat, to bring in the lower spine and the lumbar spine and the pelvis. So long neck, long spine, long legs. And you're gently pressing up to wherever your spine wants to go. Quite active in the arms. Drop your weight into your pelvis. Feel like you're heavy in your shoulder blades. The spider is walking out again. It's walking maybe up the wall, maybe. Only if your neck's comfortable. Maybe to the ceiling. Tongue into the roof of the mouth. Take a deep breath. 360 degrees in your rib cage. As you breathe out, release the tongue, and the spider comes down the wall, comes back in. You want the chin touching the bones of your neck before you start to roll down through the pelvis, through the SI joints, through the lumbar spine, through the rib cage, and bring the nose back to the mat. So again, lengthen the neck, the spine, and the legs before you start to float your head. Add a little press with the arms, just to wherever you feel comfortable. Heavy in the pelvis, heavy in the shoulder blades. The spider walks out along the floor, up the wall, maybe the ceiling. Do it slowly, much slower than I'm saying if you're very stiff. Tongue into the roof of the mouth. Take that 360-degree breath. So really the breath is the strongest part of this whole stretch. As you exhale, release the tongue. Let the spider come down the wall. Let the chin come back into the bones at the front of your neck. And then you're coming down through that heavy pelvis, through the two sacroiliac joints, either side of your sacrum, through your lumbar vertebra. You've got 5 lumbar vertebrae, through some of the vertebrae in the rib cage. Bring the nose to the floor. So just do that one more time. Long neck, long spine, long legs. Healing up to wherever you feel comfortable. Close your eyes. Just go to where you feel comfortable. Drop the weight into your pelvis, and you're already stretching the SI joints. Drop the weight into the shoulder blade, so you're active in your shoulder girdle. Even with your eyes closed, you imagine the spider moving out from you. Follow the spider up the wall, towards the ceiling, to wherever your neck is happy. Stop before you get uncomfortable in the neck. Tongue into the roof of the mouth. Take a deep, wide, full breath. See how big you can make your ribs. The stretching itself, and then as you breathe out, release the tongue. Imagine the spider coming down the wall, coming in, and just bring the chin into the bones at the front of the neck, and then very slowly coming down through the pelvis. Feel the two SI joints either side of your sacrum. Feel the 5 lumbar vertebrae. Feel the vertebra in the rib cage and the ribs as you roll through. And when the nose comes to the floor, stay there for a minute, bring the feet together, bring the hands under the shoulders, and just gently push back into kneeling. Anytime you do an extension or a hyperextension, just come into a flexed position. So this is called the child pose. Just to stretch your spine in the opposite direction. Take a nice breath into the low sides, into the low back. And as you breathe out, you're rolling up through the knees, coming back into sitting. So that's your hyperextension. So anytime that you've got a stiff sore back, you should do whichever one of those versions is more suitable for your neck, your spine, and your pelvis. And you should do it about 10 times, nice and slow. Get off the floor gently afterwards, get moving around. And if you repeat that 2 or 3 times through the day, it should help your spine to start to come out of that crisis that you can feel where you're starting to stiffen up and lock up in the back.